Hi, I'm Bill. This is the Warrior Medic. Again, I want to tell you a story, and it's not a pretty one. I was in elementary school when an older boy, much bigger than I was, he got into it with me. And I didn't fight back. I argued, then I walked away. I went home, told my dad what had happened. And Dad beat me. He beat me badly. Then he personally drove me back to the school. We found the boy, and he made me fight him. And he gave me one instruction: I'll beat you again if you lose. I was a boy who had just been beaten by his father for not fighting. Now I was standing in front of a bigger boy with the promise of more beatings waiting for me when I got home if I didn't win. So I fought and I won. Not because I was brave, but because I had no other options. That day, my father didn't just make me fight a bigger boy. He installed something in me that would run my life for the next 40 years. He installed rage. This is episode 12, and today we're going deeper into the framework we established last week: installation, conclusion, and manifestation. Today's wound is rage. The rage doesn't always look like what you think it should. It doesn't always come from a violent home. Sometimes it comes from something more specific and more intentional than random violence. My father didn't just rage at me, he trained me. He trained me that fighting was required and losing was unacceptable. That rage, when properly deployed, was the solution to every problem that required strength. I was probably one of the only children who ever got punished for not fighting in school. Let that land with you for a moment. While other boys were getting in trouble for fighting or arguing in school, I was getting beaten, bloody, at home for failing to fight. The boys at school thought I was a bully. They didn't know that if I didn't fight, all hell would break loose when I got home. That's the installation. Now, what did the boy conclude about all of this? Here's what makes my rage wound different from what most people expect. I was not naturally explosive. I couldn't access rage on demand. Rage only came when my anger exceeded my reluctance to engage. But when it came, it worked. In that state, I was motivated to fight until I won, regardless of the size of the opponent, regardless of the consequences, and regardless of what it cost. And so I made a conclusion: rage is my friend. It gives me what I need, and it solves what nothing else can. When the anger exceeds my reluctance, I win. That conclusion followed me out of elementary school. It followed me out of my father's home, into the army, into leadership, into my marriage, into my fatherhood of children. Rage had been my friend for so long, I didn't know how to live without it. 40 years later, that conclusion showed up everywhere. In my leadership, I thought people respected me. I discovered later they feared me. I wasn't trying to intimidate, I was trying to lead. But the wound had only one tool, and that tool produced fear instead of respect, without me ever knowing the difference. In my marriage, I never raised my hand to my wife, but my words could do what my fists couldn't. The rage that was trained to win at any cost didn't stop at the front door when I came home. It followed me in, and the people I loved most paid the price for the wounds I was never supposed to have. In my fathering, I remember standing beside a wrestling mat. My son was in a tournament. His opponent had him in a hold, and I stood at the mat and yelled at my son to reach down inside and find some grit, have guts, throw the boy off, fight harder. I yelled so loud, so long, demanding things from a boy that he simply couldn't do in the moment. I embarrassed him badly, and I didn't even know it, because in my world, that's what fathers did. That was how you made a boy fight. That was how my father had done it, and I was passing that wound to my son without even knowing I was carrying it. And the discovery of my rage wound came through a young soldier. He came to me, visibly afraid, and said something I will never forget. "Sir, I'm sorry. I know you're going to punish me really bad, but I don't understand what you want. I'd give it to you if I could, but I just don't understand." He was a young man who wanted to do well. He was trying everything, and he would have given me anything, but he couldn't give me what he didn't understand. And standing there, looking at that terrified young man, I saw myself as a boy with my father, wanting desperately to make him happy, trying everything, would have given anything, but I couldn't understand what he was asking of me. And paying for that confusion with pain, the wound looked back at me through the eyes of a terrified young soldier, and I was horrified by what I saw. I had become my father, not in the ways I swore I never would, but in the ways that mattered most. The people around me were afraid of me, not because I was dangerous, but because I was wounded, and I had never known the difference. The healing of the rage wound didn't come through a program, and it didn't come through anger management. It didn't come through books on leadership, although those did help. But it came through a moment when God required something of me that my rage couldn't survive. My Father God asked me to stand completely still, to absorb what was coming, to trust Him with the outcome, without defending myself, without retaliating, and without complaint. In that moment, my anger had nowhere to go. And for the first time in my life, I let God be my defense instead of my rage. And that's when it died. Not because I got stronger, but because I finally trusted someone stronger than my anger. Proverbs 16, verse 32 says, "Better a patient man than a warrior, a man who controls his temper than one who takes a city." I've been taking cities with my rage my entire life. I thought that made me strong, and I was wrong. It made me feared. It made me lonely. It made me my father. Proverbs 29, verse 11 says, "A fool gives vent to his rage, but a wise man brings himself under control." In James 1, verse 19 and 20, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. That young soldier taught me all three in one terrified sentence, and God finished the work. To finish that story, the young soldier stood there, obviously afraid of what was coming. And I'm proud to say I sharply returned his salute and said quietly, "Private Jones, I understand completely, but thanks for trying." The look on his face was priceless, and I just wish my father could have seen that look on my face just once. So for this week, one thing. Again, not a list. This week, I want you to ask yourself one question. Do people around me respect me or do they fear me? Not what you intend and not what you hope, but what you believe or what you see they actually feel. Ask your wife. Ask your sons. The answer will tell you everything about whether the rage wound is still running your life. And if the answer is fear, then know this: you are not your father. You don't have to pass this on. The chain can break with you, but it only breaks when you see it clearly. The rage wound is the most visible wound a man carries, and the most destructive, the most treatable when a man fully understands what installed it. My father trained me to weaponize my rage. My closest friend, Jesus, taught me to lay that weapon down, not because the world got safer, but because I finally trusted the one who is safer than any weapons I could carry. For the full story and healing journey, get Forged by Fire, the book that started this journey for me. The link is below. And tap the coin logo on your screen. That subscribes you to this channel. Don't miss what's coming. The Rage Wound is just the beginning. Remember, we're all becoming warrior medics. So reach back, help someone on their journey. My name is Bill. This is the Warrior Medic. No man left behind.